My best friend. Never have I found it difficult to write about a topic until now. How could I possibly condense into limited words my friendship with Muriel Rennie that spanned over 80 years? Our lives were so closely intertwined, and we'd experienced so much together, each event important and meaningful. What should I include? What exclude? I would need to ruthlessly edit unless I intended to write a tome. My first encounter with Muriel was in the Kirk Memorial Children's Choir, which the minister, the Reverend David Gordon Livingston, had initiated during World War II to keep the children busy. Mrs. Cox, who had no children of her own, didn't play the piano or have a great voice, took on this task with great enthusiasm. We sang at the church evening service, went caroling in the neighbourhood, entertained the children at St. Margaret's Hospital, and participated in a kinderspiel written and directed by Mrs. Cox. Everyone was given a part. Muriel had a good voice, but her long, lanky body with feet of lead was never meant to trip the light fantastic. I was a natural dancer and was entrusted by Mrs. Cox to help Muriel learn the steps. We laughed our way through the dances and bonded to become lifelong friends. Muriel became part of our family, and we'd so much fun playing cards, board games, telling jokes, and trying to outdo one another with witty puns. My youngest brother, John, thought he was the epitome of excellence at this, but he admitted that Muriel outstripped him with her super wit. We called Muriel the Ghost because of her very pale skin, and she loved it, saying she would always haunt the Craigs. If Muriel had a fault, it was her inability to know when to leave. My dad would appear in his pajamas and dressing gown, but Muriel would just say, "Never mind me, Mr. Craig, just you go to bed." At this point, two of my brothers would grab Muriel and frog march her to the door, saying, "Good night, Muriel," and she would reply, "See you tomorrow." Like her oak bookcase and Welsh dresser, Muriel was a fixture in our house. When my engagement was broken, it was to Muriel I turned for support. "Never mind, Helen, he wasn't right for you," she said. "Too full of himself. That special man is waiting for you." And he was. My husband, Chris, and Muriel liked each other from the word go. They had a common bond. They both loved me. I was so lucky. Muriel and I shared so much together. Our love of art, music, our holiday in Tobermory, our weekly visits to the West End Cafe jazz nights, and attendance at hundreds of concerts, recitals, musicals, and ballets. I remember once how we splurged on front row grand circle seats to see Jose Greco. After a spectacular heel-clicking solo, Muriel sprang to her feet, clapping enthusiastically and calling out, "Ole! Bravo!" Jose Greco made eye contact with her for a moment and grinned. Such a momentous occasion. Muriel was the most generous person I ever met. She never visited a family without bringing sweeties for everyone, and never left without giving money to the kiddies. Each time I went back to Scotland, she would take me out, and never to a cheap place. It would be a trendy cafe for morning coffee, the Carlton Hotel for lunch, Jenner's for afternoon tea, and the Conan Doyle for dinner. The last time I saw Muriel was in September 2022. She was in hospital suffering from heart problems and dementia. I touched her hand and said, "Hello, Muriel, it's Helen from Canada." "No, you're not. She's got dark hair," she replied. I immediately switched the conversation to the children's choir. Muriel's face lit up, and she talked of those happy days when she had so much fun. She was fully cognizant of who I was, a childhood friend, and the time together passed happily. Muriel died in November, just 2 months after my visit. She was a lover of all types of music, a walking encyclopedia. Her funeral service gives us a good insight into the person she was. Her coffin was rolled into the entrance of the Queen of Sheba. I couldn't help but laugh. Only Muriel would think of that. Then Kenneth McKellar's beautiful voice sang, "Ye banks and braes o' bonny Doon." Muriel loved her home country, Scotland. Next was some Schubert during a time of reflection. But I think what summed up Muriel's life were the last 2 pieces. Ethel Merman singing "There's No Business Like Show Business," and Monty Python singing "Always Look on the Bright Side of Life." Muriel was the bright side in the lives of so many people. She added that spark that lightened up the dullest and loneliest of days and gave us hope for a bright tomorrow. Rest in peace, my dear friend. I'll be seeing you.